John Kennedy St. Louis, right down the street. So I'm not originally from here, but I belong now. So.
Hi everybody, is this okay? So my name's Mitchell. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I came here to be the regional organizing director for Grafton County for the Chris Pappas campaign. My personal philosophy is very straightforward. I understand we got primaries, but at the end of the day, Democrats, although might be one person who might be the exception, but Democrats every single time, otherwise, are always going to be better than the Republicans at the end of the day come November. So my personal philosophy is this. I equate, and I was telling Rosemary this earlier, I equate politics to gardening because I love gardening. But in order to get anything done, you have to be willing to get your hands in the dirt, right? Now, all of that being said, keeping with the analogy, after all this is done, I'm going back home because home is where the heart is, and my heart's in Michigan. So I'm a gardening tool. So the whole reason why I'm here is because all of you, you're going to stay living in this garden long after I'm gone. So I came here so that way I can hear what you have to say. You can put eyes on me, ask me all kinds of questions, not that I particularly matter, right? I'm here to represent Chris. I'm here to represent you and your interests. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you all. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Barassa, and I'm affiliated with the Mark Barassa for State Rep Committee. It's great to be here. I want to thank the Plymouth Area Democrats for inviting me. It's wonderful. And I will be speaking to you at length, or at least a lot longer than maybe you'll like, but I'll do the best I can to keep it short. So thank you again very much for having me tonight.
So welcome everybody. So the next part of our meeting is usually approving the minutes, but we don't have our technical person on the board, and I realized today that our minutes never made it onto the website. So I have a copy here if people want to read them, but we will vote on them next week.
Next month.
Next month, in June. And then also the treasurer's report. Bill Nessheim couldn't be here tonight. We are financially sound. I want to thank all of the people who donate on ActBlue. We've had several more recurrent donations, which is fabulous. We want that to keep going. We might not have put them out today, but there are donation envelopes that maybe somebody could go down who sets up and knows where they are. Oh, they're not downstairs? Well, if anyone wants to give money, I will take it. But I will need name and address and whatnot. And then in the next few weeks, we will be starting a Plymouth Area Democrats fundraising campaign because we want to help out both our new candidates and our candidates running for re-election, and we will need some money for campaign headquarters. So thank you all for that, and we will vote on the treasurer's report next month when Bill is back. So I have a ton of announcements, and I am sorry that I'm going to be long-winded, but a lot's gone on this month. First, more good news is we have New Hampshire House candidates in all of our local districts. Some of them you've met. In addition to Mark, we have the candidates Paul, who's in District 6, which is Orford, Wentworth, and Rumney, a seat currently held by Linda Franz. We have District 11, which is Roger, and that is Alexandria, Grafton, Hebron, and Groton, and that's held by Lex Brezhny. And District 18, which is a very large flotarial, which means many, many towns. I think it has 17 or 18 towns in it. It goes all the way to Enfield. We have a candidate. Her name is Deborah Ford. She's from Enfield, and we are thrilled. I am hopeful that I'm going to get through these announcements, and I will give Paul and Roger another minute or two if they want to introduce themselves further, but we will have them in as regular speakers as we go through the campaign season. Next, as you know, because of us not having our minutes, our technology and communications officer has stepped down. We do have a volunteer for that position, but if that person steps into the technology role, we will need a new vice chair. So please see me or another board member if you want more information or you want to volunteer. I want to thank Laura Parr. She's not here tonight. She is the new coordinator of our potluck committee. We changed the name from hospitality because people didn't know exactly what was involved in that, so it's really setting up the potlucks. The campaign season this year is a little bit challenging with primaries at all of the top races. We, as Grafton County Democrats, are trying to figure out how to best support our local candidates who don't have a primary opponent. New Hampshire Democratic Party has a neutrality clause, so we can't coordinate as a regional or a town committee with a candidate who has a primary opponent. People can volunteer as individuals. And that being said, Mitchell came here today to introduce himself. If you want to get involved, speak to the candidates, speak to your town chairs, speak to me, and we were going to try and coordinate this. Following up on that, as we're trying to flip red seats blue, I want you all to save the date on June 13th. It's a morning of organization. We're calling it You've Protested, Now What? It's going to be held at the Littleton Regional Senior Center, and this is a half day of planning to see how we can work with candidates, messaging, oppo research, and practical strategies for what has worked. This is for candidates, town committee members, and everyone who's interested in getting involved. The flyers will go out. It looks like this, and I have some black and white copies if anyone wants to take them. There's a QR code, but it's in Littleton, and I encourage everyone to come. Other upcoming events, the New Hampshire Democratic Party Convention is this weekend in Dover. Andy Bashir is the keynote speaker in the afternoon, and tickets are still available. Medicaid Matters, which is a group, is presenting a program on what Granite State families need to know about changes to Medicaid on Wednesday, May 27th at the Byron G. Merrill Library in Rumney. Some of our other Grafton County Dems are continuing to offer trainings for conversation canvassing. So see me, and I can get you the information. There's a training that's coming up. Going a little farther out, we need volunteers for our July 4th parade, but there's a question for all of you. We traditionally have been in the Ashland parade, but to be honest, Ashland, the way our districts are, is pretty safe for the Democrats. However, Bristol has a July 4th parade, and I would like to get a sense of the meeting, or an actual, let's do an actual vote of members on whether we can switch and go to the Bristol parade. We can't do both, the times overlap. This would give us more visibility in the more red district of the Bristol, Bridgewater, Hebron area. It'll be good for Mark, it'll be good for Roger, it'll be good for Rebecca. I know this is a little out of the ordinary, but if I could, if are people up for voting on this? Okay, so everyone in favor of going to Bristol, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right. The other thing is we have a couple of banners. So if some group wants to do their own march in Ashland, we can split up in two. But I just thought we should do our focus as one of them. So we will work with Karen Bemis on that. And the last upcoming event I wanted to mention is the Rumney Old Home Day, which is August 8th. We generally have a tent there and we'll need volunteers, more information coming from that. On the first table, there is some literature from a slate of candidates from the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative Board. I was asked to have the literature here. It's not an endorsement by PAD or me personally, but an opportunity to share information. So if people are interested in our co-op members, there's a co-op candidate forum going on as we speak at Tenny Mountain. But if people wanted more information, it's here at the front table. And next coming up is Janet Lucas wants to come up and tell us about some shenanigans is the word she told me, but it's probably worse than that in Concord.
Thanks, Katie. It's so great to see all of you. What a turnout. This is magnificent. Just briefly, I have some homework, and I'm hoping to give you an opportunity to act and that you'll take the opportunity. For background, about halfway through session, we send our bills to the Senate to be heard in their committees, and they send their bills to us to be heard in our committees. Now we are reaching the end of our session, and we are voting on Senate bills from our committees. And we've entered what some folks call the silly season, but it's becoming more insidious or nefarious, I guess would be a better term
Sinister
for it.
season. Sinister.
So I have a communication from State Representative Rosemary Rum. And she's communicated just today that there's a floor amendment that's going to be introduced tomorrow morning or afternoon or evening, because it's going to be a marathon, on Senate Bill 408, which had passed unanimously pretty much out of the House committee. It was overwhelmingly passed by the full House, and then the Senate bill came to us, and it was passed unanimously, and it was going to be voted on. And this bill would require coverage for adult amputee prosthetics, as insurance now covers, required in the state of New Hampshire, child amputee prosthetics. This should be fairly straightforward. It's a bipartisan bill. It has strong support, but because it's nefarious season, another bill, HB 1793, the so-called Campus Carry Bill, will be introduced as an amendment. The language will be introduced as an amendment to this bill.
Disgusting.
Obviously there'll be a vote, and what we're asking you to do, if you don't mind, is I've got a list of all the House Finance Republicans who voted to add this amendment and their emails. And if you are able to, as soon as possible tonight, if you can send an email to each of these individuals and tell them that you are against adding this amendment. We want to get the prosthetics bill passed, but if this amendment goes through, we won't be able to vote for it because it will be campus carry. I mean, yeah, you want campus carry, maybe you'll need more adult prosthetics if this goes through. But it's just an example of a lot that's going to go on tomorrow, but this is one of the worst. So I'll pass these out. I don't think I've got a copy for everyone. If you can use your phones to take photographs of the emails, I'd appreciate it. Do you have any questions? Okay, thanks so much.
All right, so it is just about 6:30, so I am going to apologize to Paul and Roger about not getting a couple minutes to do more of an introduction. But after the meeting, hang around and everyone can come talk to you, and we will plan a date for you to come. Does anyone need a break, or can I just go right into the meat of our meeting? All right. So, I would like to introduce District 10 candidate Mark Barassi. Mark's plan is he'll speak for about 20 minutes, and he's graciously agreed to answer questions for the remainder of his 30 minutes that we're giving him. A little introduction. He was born and raised in Manchester and is a graduate of Manchester Memorial High School. He attended Boston University and earned his degree in finance and accounting from Suffolk University. Mark has spent more than 35 years as a financial and senior executive across multiple industries, including technology, manufacturing, and nonprofit healthcare. As a chief financial officer in the community health center system, he developed and managed multi-year strategic plans and annual operating budgets, and oversaw the deployment of hundreds of millions of dollars of federal and state funding. He has a long record of safeguarding taxpayer resources and implementing policies to ensure public funds are used efficiently and responsibly. A Bristol homeowner for 27 years, Mark originally came to Bristol for the lake and all it has to offer. He decided to stay permanently out of a love for the community and of its great potential. Mark currently serves on the town planning board and was elected in March to the Bristol Budget Committee. In addition to public service, Mark is an avid boater and has built 23 of his own. Is that right? He loves the outdoors, hiking, biking, and loves his motorcycle. He's a guitarist who until recently had a band that played regularly in southern New Hampshire. He has a lifelong commitment to public service, a deep dedication to improving the quality of life for the residents of Bristol. His membership to town communities and other organizations provides him an opportunity to bring his fiscal expertise, strategic management experience, and community-focused approach to the work of representing his town. Let's everybody hear it for Mark.
Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the wine, by the way. This is my first political speech, so that's going to help a little bit. And thanks for the introduction. And I'll just go with you. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for taking the time today to listen to my thoughts tonight. My name is Mark Barassi, and today I'm happy to announce my candidacy for state representative for Grafton County District 10, representing the towns of Bristol and Bridgewater. This is my home. I've owned a home in Bristol for 27 years. These are my neighbors and my friends. I'm running because I believe deeply that our communities need and deserve a representative who listens, who works hard, and who fights every day to make life more affordable, more secure, and more hopeful for the people who live here. The moment that pushed me from frustration to action came last spring. I was on vacation, a little rare chance to relax, and I found myself on the phone with a close friend, venting about the state of things here and across the country. I told him, half jokingly, that I'm sick and tired of throwing my sneakers at the TV every time I watch CNN report another outrage. I need to do something. I can't just sit here and complain. The very next morning, I opened my email, and I saw an image from Bristol Democrats, inviting me to attend a meeting. This was the card, by the way, Karen. I called the number on the card and ended up speaking with Karen Bemis, our wonderful, awesome committee chair. We had a terrific conversation, and soon after I met the rest of the team. They encouraged me to consider running for this seat, and after several seconds of deep thought, I said yes. I said yes because I love this community. I said yes because I believe we can do better. And I said yes because I'm tired of watching decisions get made that hurt working families seniors, and young people trying to build a future here. I'll tell you a little bit now about what I believe. My campaign is built on 3 simple principles. Principles shared and shaped by a lifetime of work, family, and service, and by the conversations I've had with people right here in Bristol and Bridgewater. Number 1, every child deserves a high-quality public education. Education is the cornerstone of our democracy. From the earliest days of our country, even before the Constitution, our founders understood that a free, universal public education system was essential to a functioning republic. That belief built New Hampshire. It built the towns we live in, and it built the opportunities many of us had growing up. Today, that promise is under threat. We cannot allow public schools to be drained of resources. We cannot allow zip code or income to determine a child's future. And we cannot allow political ideology to undermine the very system that has served generations of Granite Staters. I will fight to strengthen our public schools, support our teachers, and ensure that every child in every town has access to the education they deserve. Number 2, healthcare is a right, not a privilege. No family in Bristol or Bridgewater should have to choose between seeking a doctor or paying their heating bill. No senior should skip medication because the cost is too high. And no parent should lie awake at night wondering how they'll afford care for their children. Healthcare is not a luxury, it is a basic human right. I spent the last decade of my career in the community health system, overseeing the finances of all 52 community health centers in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I saw firsthand how access to affordable, high-quality care changes lives. I also saw how fragile that access can be when budgets are cut or priorities are shifted. In Concord, I will work to protect and expand access to care, mental health, primary care, dental care, and substance use treatment, because healthy families build healthy communities. And number 3, our tax system must be fair, and property taxes must stop crushing our residents. This is the issue I hear about more than any other. Property taxes, as we all know, are skyrocketing. Seniors are being priced out of homes that they've lived in for decades. Young families can't afford to stay, and towns are forced to choose between raising taxes more or cutting essential services. This is not sustainable. We need a tax structure that is fair, balanced, and modern, one that ensures those with the greatest wealth and resources contribute their fair share, and one that gives relief to people who are struggling the most. We can do this. We can protect our towns, fund our schools, and ease the burden on working families, but only if we have leaders willing to rethink the system and fight for real solutions. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about my background and why it matters. I'll tell you a little bit about the experiences I've had and how they've shaped me. I was born and raised in Manchester, as you know, and I graduated from Manchester Memorial High School. I'm not going to tell you what year that was. I attended Boston University, and I earned my degree in finance and banking from Suffolk University, also in Boston. My parents taught me the value of hard work and responsibility. I knew early on that if I wanted to go to college, I'd have to pay for it myself. So I started saving at age 10. I worked nearly full-time throughout college and paid every dollar of my tuition. That experience shaped me. It taught me discipline. It taught me sacrifice. And it taught me the value of every single dollar. For more than 35 years, I worked in increasingly senior financial management roles in technology, manufacturing, R&D, yes, defense also, and most recently in not-for-profit healthcare. In my role as Chief Financial Officer for the Mass League of Community Health Centers, I managed and deployed over $100 million in state and federal taxpayer funds. That work required rigorous oversight, strict controls, and constant accountability. Every dollar had to be justified, and every expenditure had to deliver value, and every decision had to be made with the public interest in mind. That is exactly the mindset that I will bring to Concord. I will ask tough questions. I will demand clear value from every taxpayer dollar, and I will work to ensure that our limited resources are used efficiently, effectively, and transparently. And now if I could just talk a little bit about family, community, and compassion. I want to share something a little more personal. I have 3 grown children, 2 of whom were adopted. My daughter was adopted through the Department of Children and Families in Massachusetts. Through that experience, I saw firsthand the challenges that so many children face. Instability, trauma, uncertainty, and the extraordinary resilience that they show in the face of it. That experience deepened my commitment to supporting families, strengthening social services, and ensuring that every child has a chance to grow up safe, supported, and hopeful. These are not abstract policy debates for me. They are lived experience. They are part of who I am. How we win and what we fight for. The great House Speaker Tip O'Neill famously said, "All politics is local," and he was right. People want to know what we can do for their town, their neighborhood, their family. They want leaders who understand their daily struggles, not just the headlines coming out of Washington. If we want to win this district, and if Democrats want to win across the state, we must stay focused on the issues that matter most to our neighbors. Affordability, education, healthcare, property taxes, economic opportunity. These are the issues that shape people's lives. These are the issues that determine whether families can stay in the communities they love. And these are the issues that I will fight for every single day. Let me close with this. I'm not asking you to vote for me. I'm asking you to vote for yourselves, for your families, for your children, your parents, your neighbors, and your community. Vote for a future where you can afford to stay in your home. Vote for a future where your kids can get a great education in their local public schools. Vote for a future where healthcare is accessible, affordable, and humane. And vote for a future where our towns thrive, not struggle. I'm running because I believe in that future. I believe in Bristol. I believe in Bridgewater. And I believe in the people who call these towns home. Together, we can build a community where everyone has a fair shot, where everyone is treated with dignity, and where everyone can prosper. I'm ready to fight for that future, and I hope you'll join me. Thank you, everybody.
Well, I will say that was a fabulous first political speech. I think we've got a winner. Anyway, questions?
And be gentle, I'm just learning.
We are so thrilled you're here, and I can't thank Mrs. and everyone in the Bristol Town Democratic Committee. You guys rock. You make a difference. Thank you. I would really love to donate to you. So could you please get signed up? This is for all the candidates. Get signed up on Act Blue as soon as possible. Fundraising is going to be key to your success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and I absolutely, that is a priority one. Karen and I have talked at length about it. So yes, I'll be on it, and by all means, donate.
And people can also send checks, so if you and then you don't have the, Act Blue is the easiest, having it
Right.
run, but you
Checks.
don't, that percentage counts, so if you can get us the name of your committee when you have it and the address to send the checks, we will be able to help with that.
I'll do that, and we'll accept checks, cash, gold bullion, anything. Thank you so much.
All right. I see one here.
Thank you.
I live in Bristol.
Yes.
beginning of its formulation. We have representing us at the moment some of the most concerning individuals in the world, I'd like to say. They are free staters. They do not think the way you think. And we need to help you find a way to make sure that our friends and neighbors understand that what is happening because of them is part of the problem. So the staunch Republicans who come, and by the way, I'm a poll worker, so I get to talk to the people who come to vote.
Right.
We will be behind you.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
I really appreciate that. And yes, I think it sounds like everybody in the room is pretty well aware of the incumbent, Mr. Sellers. I have yet to meet the gentleman. I have read considerably about his, I guess, exploits, maybe be the best term to describe it. Certainly, I believe they're out of touch with the people of New Hampshire, with the people in my district. I believe that the issue is education as much as anything else. I think that we need to raise the awareness at the state rep level and how important state representatives are. I think a lot of folks, and it's not their fault at all, but not a lot of folks spend a whole bunch of time researching who their state representative candidates are. So I think our task and our charter is to educate these folks, everybody, as much as possible. I was at a fish fry last week, and I have driven by this church thousands of times and seen the fish fry sign, every couple of months. Never went in, finally went in. And I talked to some awesome people, just great people. But when I asked them who their state rep was, they had no idea. And they said, we checked the box because one of them was a Republican and the other folks were Democrats, and they just checked the box. That's huge. That is a hurdle that we need to overcome.
Educating about the free staters is gotta be number one.
Absolutely.
They don't even
Right.
know what they're checking.
Right. And we don't need to be strident. We don't need to be, talking about Democrats and all of that. We need to talk about common sense. We need to talk about competence, character, and common sense. That's what people are going to resonate with. That's how we're going to resonate with these people. Not that we're a Democrat and we're anti-Republican or anything like that. That doesn't play well, I don't believe, in New Hampshire. And I think that actually almost eliminating the party discussion when we're one-to-one with these folks is probably the best path. Because they don't care either. All they want to know is if you're going to be competent and you're going to have common sense and you have character. So let's focus on that. Let's educate people about how important the state level representatives and senators are. And I think that that's a winning combination for us.
Hi, I'm from Bridgewater, and I'm so thrilled you're running. As you surely know, taxes is a very thorny issue in New Hampshire. Obviously, the property tax issue is becoming more top of mind for people, but it's still a tough one to address. I'm curious how you're planning to go at that.
Right, and that's a great question, and I will tell you that I am doing a deep dive into that, obviously. I have a lot to learn. I'm learning a lot, however. I talked to Thomas Opal. I'm guessing a lot of you may know who he is. He's a rep as well, and he is very knowledgeable about taxation. Property taxes are crazy, and in fact, I believe that our property taxes are the highest in the United States, or at least in the top 2 or 3. And of course, the reason for that is we have no other real statewide revenue sources. We don't have a sales tax. We don't have an income tax. We are also constrained constitutionally in our ability to implement a progressive tax. That is actually forbidden by the state constitution. So that's a problem. There's a plan called the 3-3 plan that is working to try to find better ways to raise revenue without crushing homeowners. And actually, it's not just homeowners who are crushed by property taxes, right? If you own a property and you rent it out and you get slugged with a huge property tax increase, are you going to pay for it? Nope. The renter's going to pay for it. So you don't have to be a homeowner to be getting killed by these property taxes and these property tax increases. There's a lot to be done. The other thing that's really unfair about property taxes is it taxes unrealized income. So as a finance guy, I can tell you that when let's say you have a stock portfolio and you have $200,000 in that stock portfolio, and it increases by 10% in a year. So you make $20,000 on your portfolio. Now you don't sell any of your stocks or anything, you just leave it there. That's called an unrealized gain. That is not a taxable event. You don't get taxed on that. Now, let's say you've got a $200,000 house, and that house increases in value by 10%, so $20,000. So your friendly local assessor comes around and says, hey, your house is now worth $220,000, not $200,000. We're going to tax you on the $220,000. You didn't sell the house. You didn't make any sort of transaction at all. And all of a sudden, you're paying taxes on something that you haven't realized a gain on. It's totally unfair. So there's a lot to be done. And I think there are a lot of people there's a growing realization of the unfairness of that and many other things with this whole property tax model as the foundation for our tax base. So I can absolutely tell you that I will commit to learning as much about this as I possibly can, and I will be on those committees and working to find other ways to raise revenue than the system we have now. It's utterly broken. And one more thing. So the last time I registered my car in Massachusetts, I registered it for 2 years and it cost me $60. I just registered my car the other day up here for 1 year and it was almost $300. So the next time I hear about tax-free New Hampshire, I think my head's going to explode. So we just find ways. We find ways. But those are nickel and dime ways, and they're also regressive. Those are the things that hit lower income and working class people the hardest. And the fact that we can't, at least now, as my understanding, we can't implement any sort of progressive taxation. That's a real problem. I think it's a strategic problem. We're going to need time to change that. But I think we can. I can hear you.
Everyone can hear me.
No.
I know how to project what. You can't hear me?
Behind you. I can't hear you, behind you. It's okay, it doesn't hurt.
I have a nuts and bolts question for you about committees. It starts to blur. I can't hear when you talk like this. You know, it gets to be difficult. What committees do you have available to you to be on? And can you choose? Are you appointed? How does that happen?
So that's a great question that I should know the answer to.
Janet probably knows.
But Janet, who has been so gracious, and I'm going to be with her tomorrow morning in Concord. She's going to show me around. I'd love to defer to you, Janet. Thank you.
No problem, that's fine. So committee appointments are made by the party leadership, and they are actually submitted to the speaker. And almost always the speaker, even if the speaker belongs to another party, accepts the recommendations from the minority for appointments to committees. Newly elected state reps can certainly give their preferences for committees that they want to serve on to our leadership in the House. And my background is in healthcare, and I asked to be put on Health and Human Services, Elderly Affairs, and that's where I am serving. So they take that into consideration. And especially someone with Mark's background, he can pretty much call whichever committee he wants to serve on. and they'll be grateful to have him. He's overqualified, folks, and it's amazing that he's here tonight speaking to us.
Very kind, thanks.
All right, are there more questions?
Mark, I would just like to thank you for your talk tonight, but in regard to your humanity and your character, I would just like to say you had me at 2 adopted children.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Well, Mark, you did an exceptional job for your first time. And we're here as Plymouth Area Democrats. We're here with all of our town committees. We all work together, and we're here to support you and the other people who are running. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I feel like I'm rushing her a little bit. I didn't even go over and introduce myself, but we have another really great speaker that I'm so thrilled to have, and Rebecca. This is Rebecca Harnett. She is the New Hampshire Senate candidate for Senate District 7, and she's here to speak with us. Just like Mark, she has agreed to speak and then answer some Q&A. And if it's okay, I'll do a little bit of an introduction, but I'm Katie Wood Hedberg, and it's so good to meet you in person. So Rebecca is a committed citizen of New Hampshire's 7th Senate District who's proud to raise her family in New Hampshire and dedicate her career to public service and the public good. A full-time working parent, Rebecca knows firsthand the financial pressures facing families as the cost of living continues to rise across the state. As the daughter of a service-disabled U.S. Air Force veteran, Rebecca has a personal understanding of the challenges facing veterans and seniors, particularly those living on fixed incomes with health challenges. Rebecca lives the core values of our community through local citizenship, service, and accountability. These principles are essential to strengthening our communities and fighting for a better today and creating a brighter future for all people in our district. She's a proud graduate of Colby Sawyer College, where she relied on need-based financial aid and worked 2 jobs to complete her degree. She went on to earn a master's degree and spent more than a decade in Washington, D.C., working on practical, bipartisan solutions in public safety and disaster preparedness. Her work focused on achieving real outcomes while safeguarding taxpayer dollars, earning her a reputation for fiscal responsibility, innovation, and results-driven leadership. In 2017, Rebecca returned home to New Hampshire to raise her family and invest in the community she loves. She lives in Sutton, where her son attends the Kearsarge Regional School District and is active in local sports and community organizations. Rebecca currently works full-time as a research scientist and serves on the Kearsarge Regional School District Municipal Budget Committee, where she helps ensure responsible stewardship of local tax dollars and improve the quality of education. Rebecca is a recipient of Colby Sawyer's Alumni Achievement Award and has been recognized for her contributions to public service. In her free time, I'm sure she has a lot of it. She and her family enjoy being active outdoors in New Hampshire's lakes and mountains. Please give a warm welcome to Rebecca.
Thank you all so much for the opportunity to be with you all this evening. Quick show of hands, how many of you are from New Hampshire State Senate District 7? So I think that would be Hebron, Bridgewater, Bristol. Do we have some hands? Great. And then for those of you who are not necessarily from District 7, just know that the state legislature is 24 seats. So every seat matters in terms of representing your concerns and in your issues and your solutions as well. So to get started, I just want to share a little bit about myself. I know Katie covered a pretty thorough biography on me, which is really helpful. But I am very much invested in our communities here. I've been a part of this community for a very long time. I have a lot of history in District 7. I was in Franklin last week, kind of walking and retracing my steps from 25 years ago when I used to whitewater kayak on that river down there. So it's really exciting to be in all of these communities, and I'm really committed because I'm raising my family here, and that's really important to me. That was a choice I made to come back here, and it wasn't a convenient choice, because I'm sure you can imagine my work is national in scope day to day, but I know how important it is to have strong local roots and to support our local communities as well as our state legislatures. And that was really part of the impetus of why I decided to run. I was looking at the challenges that we are facing in our school district and through our municipal budget committee, seeing up close, and being somewhere where I've also worked, a lot at the national level. I know that the issues that we're facing locally cannot be solved locally. They have to be solved in our state legislature. And I looked at that and I said, how do we get the right solutions implemented? How do we fix this and not just continue to put Band-Aids on that keep falling off year after year? And I know many of you are facing that. It is in public education, and we're going to talk about that, but as you know, it's in other essential services. It's affecting public safety. It's affecting roads and transportation networks that we rely on, that working class people rely on simply to physically get to work, to pick up their children. Seniors, same thing. So those are really the foundation as to why I'm doing this and what has really brought me to this point. I'm looking at this, I see solutions, and that's the other part of it. I don't just see the problems that we're facing, but I see the solutions. So that's a bit of my background. You might want to also know, in terms of my work day to day, is I work as a research scientist. I specifically study risk and resilience science. So I have a pretty deep background. I've worked across different types of natural hazards as well as man-made adversarial issues. And I study risk at the end of the day, and I translate risk for public leaders. Whether that's in a local fire department, whether that's in a local police station, whether that's an emergency manager, a county administrator. The work that I do works to bring the science and bridge it into day-to-day decisions that local communities make. So that's my background. And in terms of, I didn't craft a formal speech with you all, but I did want to cover some key issues and really what my campaign is focused on behalf of our communities. So when I look at this, this is our campaign. This is our year. 2026 is a massive opportunity for us to really change the tides in our state legislature. We haven't had an opportunity before us like this in a very long time. And I think we're also at a point where we know and experience that it's clearer now than it ever has been before. And as our colleague here who is running for House District 10 pointed out, the mess that's been created as a result of the Free State Movement in our state legislature is we're experiencing the pains of the results of the decisions in the laws that they've been passing. And now is our time to take the torch back, take our leadership back, take our power back, and restore common sense policy at our state legislature. The other piece that I would share with that is, as a fellow Democrat and as someone who has lived and breathed this mission, this vision, right, for our society as a whole, myself included, has been a culprit of this. We have a tendency to focus too much on national and federal elections. We've got to focus where we live as well and balance that out. So I'm going to start and talk a little bit about the solutions and where this campaign is focused on. And I'm going to caveat it with, I care about a lot of the other issues that all of you care about as well. I care about climate. I care about women's reproductive health issues. I care about a lot of other issues, food security, name it, the list can go on. However, I also know that once elected, we have 2 years to make real, meaningful impact in our state legislature. We need quick wins that are shared priorities and shared common ground, and I really appreciate Mike's comments about the need for us to come back together with folks on the center, be the bridge builders, and focus on our core issues that are really fundamental common sense issues. So I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to start with the solution that we need to get started with. Now, it's not an end-all, be-all solution, but it's a really critical starting point, and it's fiscal responsibility. We have a ton of work to do in our state legislature to restore fiscal responsibility. And that may sound counterintuitive to many of you, but if you dig into the policies that have been passed over the last several years, there's been a deterioration of accountability and of fiscal responsibility. And I'm going to give you a specific example. How many of you are familiar with the Education Freedom Accounts program? So one of the primary areas where we are truly leaking money, if you were to take a bucket, put holes in it, and pour water in it, that's leaking all over the place, is when they passed the legislation to remove and eliminate the income cap on families eligible to receive EFAs, right? That budget suddenly skyrocketed, and that means that's money that's not going into public education, and that is a problem. The other piece of that is over 90% of the new families that entered the program after they removed the income cap already had their children in private school. That's a real problem. That's an example of a lack of fiscal responsibility in our state house. That's an example of, before we talk about needing to bring in new streams of revenue, whether that's different taxes, whether that's different fees, which there's a lot of opportunities for, I will say, we need to restore the responsibility so that we don't leak more money out of that bucket, right? So that's number one. Number two, and I know this is a controversial issue, it's for now, for the time being, there's not an appetite to entertain a state income and state sales tax, and that's something that we need to accept and we need to campaign on for now. We are not in a structure right now to entertain that. We also have not explored other alternatives sufficiently before we look at some sort of broad-based sales tax or broad-based income tax, right? And there's so many other options in terms of revenue streams that we must investigate, we must explore. We need to understand how are they going to both positively and negatively impact the people of New Hampshire. And that needs to come before we start introducing any type of a broad-based tax. So that's a key issue. Another major issue that we need to consider and look at is our public education. It is a fundamental issue. Why is it a fundamental issue to everyone, right? You know the property tax calamity, right? Bottom line. So property taxes and public education are essentially intertwined. You can't have one without the other. You can't have essential services without property tax. But we also need to commit to a strategy to lower our property taxes. Again, it starts with fiscal responsibility, restoring and recovering those funds that are leaking out the door, reallocating them back to public education. And what happens when we do that? What happens when we reinvest in public education? What happens is we are preserving the quality of our communities. And you know what? We're also preserving the value of each and every one of us that owns a home, the long-term value of the one investment that many of us spend our entire lives investing in. When your public education diminishes, or in some cases, they're exploring closing schools, the property values in those communities are going to go down between 10 to 20% in perpetuity. Meaning until that school is reopened, you will have basically a depreciated asset in your home will have reduced 10 to 20%. That's really significant, not to mention the impact on the next generation, right? And if we want to build vibrant communities, if we want to attract small business expansion, if we want to attract sustainable economic development opportunities for our communities, we have to have strong education. And we have to lower our property taxes. So the two really come hand in hand and are part of an overall solution. The other piece on public education that I want to talk about is around the quality of education in this state and in our district. We have a lot of work to do to rebalance, recalibrate our spending so that we not just look at it as, are we keeping our education afloat, right? If we restore what the state's responsibility is, right, we know that we're not fulfilling our state's responsibility in education spending. We need to look at how can we further improve that? Are we meeting the needs of our special education students? I was just in Franklin last weekend talking with several community members, and they were talking about the fact that they don't have their kids in public school because their kids have special education needs that weren't being adequately met by the local school system. That's also a problem that we must fix, and it's resolvable at our state legislature through economic policy and fiscal policy. So those are the major issues. Another big piece of this too is as we look at natural resources and energy stewardship across our district. I know this is a big one for all of you. We have a lot of traditions. We need to respect the fact that New Hampshire is not for sale for things like big data centers. And I say that both in terms of natural resources and our open spaces, as well as our energy consumption. We don't have the energy infrastructure to be able to support certain types of development. So we also need to look at balancing and sustainable economic development for our district that is right-sized for our district and preservation of natural resources. So those are key components: clean energy, green energy production. In my district, which is in the town of Warner, it has the largest solar installation of any single solar installation in the state. That's an example of land well used. It's right on next to the highway, right? So it's property that wouldn't otherwise be used for farming or for homes and whatnot. So how do we balance some of that to meet the energy demands of today and as our communities can reasonably grow into the future? So those are some of the key issues, but I'm also very keen to talk with all of you about your issues. And before I do that, I will also, a couple of key pieces. I need your help. We have a ton of work to do to get out in our communities. District 7 is big. It's 22 towns that spans the northern part is Hebron, and it goes all the way down to the town of Hillsborough. It covers Bristol, it covers Franklin, Alexandria, Grafton, and then it includes Warner, Sutton, Webster, a number of other communities. So reaching our voters, having the conversations, all of us need to have the hard conversations with our neighbors, regardless of their political alignment, as Mike pointed out, right? We've got to break down those barriers and come together on these issues and on these solutions and get the votes that we need so that we can flip this seat in 2026. So that's what I have to share with you, and I'd really love to open it up and have a dialogue with you all about really what are the biggest issues that keep you up at night? What are the key issues that you want to tackle for your communities here?
First of all, thank you. It was very, very helpful to hear what is important to you and should be to the whole state. We have developed a culture in this state that I worry about, such as agreeing to sign something before you are elected or before you go into your role. That you will not vote for something like an income tax or a sales tax. I think
in terms of, so we do have to distinguish between, you know, a sales tax or an income tax and a broad-based tax, right? Because you can have very specific types of taxes that are at specific thresholds, if you will, or for specific types of products. Those are different conversations than a broad-based tax. And that's what, at this stage, there's no appetite for that bipartisan, right? And so I think that's the reality, but there's still, to your point, there's other revenue generation solutions. I do look at it as like, we need a new business plan for New Hampshire, bottom line. And I've talked with some of our executive council members about that, because that is somewhat of an executive office level strategy, but that's what it comes down to. We have to think about revenue generation and spending like we would a business plan. It's a really fundamental concept in terms of how we go about it. But it looks at like, what's the future? What is the future New Hampshire that we want to build, right? What do we want that economy to look like? How do we want our children, our grandchildren to want to come back here and live and raise their families here? And that's something that, you know, we can shape. If we flip these seats in the state legislature, if we flip the House seats, hopefully we flip House seat District 10, by the way, as well as our Senate, like we have a real opportunity before us to reshape the future of the state. And that's really exciting. Other, like, what's keeping you all up at night? Or what solutions do you see? Yeah, go ahead, we have a couple.
Hi, so I'm Sally Fellows. I'm finishing up my 4th term, and my area of expertise is school funding and property taxes and that sort of thing. But what's keeping me up at night has to do with voting. That the law that the Republicans passed that require proof of citizenship for voting, and I know that that's in the court. But if the court doesn't, you know, throw that out, I'm afraid about what's going to happen. You know, when we go to vote in the polls, many people are going to be turned away. There are people who don't even know that that's going to be a requirement.
That is a major issue that we need to track, and we need to help educate our friends, our neighbors, right, when time comes for the primaries as well as general elections, should that be an issue, as well as the ID requirements around voting. But that's part of our responsibility just as citizens. Like that's civic engagement, right? Is helping our fellow voters like know how to successfully get out to vote, prepare for that now as much as they can. I think we had a couple more hands.
I was just looking at District 7.
Yeah.
It is big. What do you have to say about Senator Innes that we may not know, that we should know? And I'll leave it at that.
So I appreciate you sharing that. I will say I am committed to running a clean campaign with my opponent on the other side of this. I'd say we are very different people. I'd say we have a very different moral and ethical compass guiding in different sets of values, unfortunately. So as far as I can see, I have real concerns around his voting on specific bills that I would hope that all of you would be concerned about. I'll give you one specific example that ties to property tax, property values, and education. So he's pushed a bill forward on the Senate side in the fiscal committee, I can't remember the exact term of that committee, that would essentially, basically, if you're in a school district, which most of us are, it would eliminate the autonomy that a local town has, whether a school remains opened or closed, and it would divert and defer that decision to the entire district, even though the economic consequences of that decision are exclusively for the town where that school resides. And he introduced that bill. Not only did he vote for that bill, and that's a real problem that we have. So that's just one specific example.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, keep honing in on those issues where he has specifically let down District 7. That's a great example.
and it does not represent the interest, frankly, of his own town, who has one of our small town-level elementary schools that's actually on the slate to potentially be closed, right? Not to mention the town I live in and another neighboring town, all within District 7. So those are the types of issues that he is tackling. There's a lot of other, I would say, hypocritical voting record that he has that is simply not representing the constituency of District 7, regardless of your political affiliation. Did you want me to say anything else about Dan?
I think you've got a big challenge, and I think that kind of specificity is going to be really helpful when you go to those particular towns that have failing school systems. Is this what you want?
Right.
You know, I think you can find 3 more issues like that and different, policies or issues like legislation that he's introduced that you can tag him on in a very friendly way.
Right.
And pay for comments.
He's also a public spokesperson in support of expansion of educational freedom accounts, so EFAs. He's come out publicly in support of them, advocating for expansion of the program. That's problematic. That does not represent, frankly, the fiscal interests of the towns in District 7, and I would say, not to overextend that, but for the entire state, right? So that's a real problem when we look at how do we get to solutions. This seat is a key seat that we need to flip to change it. I mean, he's as far right as you can get, and I'd say, extreme far right on a lot of these things. And there's a hand up in the back.
Karen, we're thrilled to have you. We're really glad to have you. We can't believe how glad we are to have you. So let me just start with that. But the other thing I would just ask you is, what can we do to help you? Of course, we can throw money, but is there other things? I mean, not all of us, I have to be in your district, so I'll work for you, but what else can others do to support your campaign and support your candidacy?
Yes, so it's a great question. There's a lot of opportunities for volunteer engagement with the campaign. We need letters to the editor written. We need to build some different, what I call cadres of volunteers, and align them to what they want to work on. We recognize not everyone wants to canvass. Those that do, we welcome and encourage it. The other thing that we're looking to do is hosting really informal coffee and conversations in the different towns that is, at a coffee shop or even out on a town green after church one day, so that we can attract folks that maybe are undeclared. Our district is almost 40% undeclared voters. We can't just be speaking to a choir, so we need to help coordinate, bring communities together, have these conversations, talk about the issues, and talk about the solutions as a part of how we campaign. So I'm taking a slightly different approach, and I welcome engagement by all of you. If you have an idea of a place that we need to do this, if you want to help co-host one of these, that would be a really great way. And then to your earlier point, fundraising is a really big part of this campaign. This state Senate seat is going to run about $350,000 in terms of campaign money, and none of that goes to me, let me be very clear. I'm also very fiscally conservative about how I spend that money. So that's why I'm looking at kind of lower cost, higher impact campaign strategies that will help to curb some of that cost. We are looking for donations where our goal is to get at least one donation from every town in District 7 before filing day in June. So far, we don't have a donation from Bristol, Bridgewater, and Hebron specifically. So,
I was going to say, we have a lot of people here.
But we are actually making tremendous progress on the fundraising side, which is really exciting, as well as actively working on getting non-corporate political action committee endorsements. So we already have one from the 314 Action, which is a PAC that's specifically for candidates coming out of the sciences. So I was really excited about that one. And then I've had conversations and working on several others, including from some of our labor unions and public safety and whatnot.
All right, as we're winding down a little bit, I'm sure we're we're not, most of us are up at night, some night, worrying about things. Anyone else want to share? All right, well, I just want to say thank you, and I don't know if you heard, but Rebecca was on a flight about an hour ago, so she worked so hard to get here, and I personally am grateful, and I'm so glad she was able to speak to all of us. So let's give a warm round of applause.
I just want to say thank you all so much for taking some time with me today, and I look forward to talking more with you all.
All right, as we wrap up the meeting, our meeting next month is Wednesday, June 10th. Remember, it's the second Wednesday of the month. And we have a program on countering Christian nationalism scheduled. So I heard it in Meredith, and it was excellent, so I hope everyone can come. This was a great turnout on a night that had some other very important issues going on. I see some of the candidates from the New Hampshire Election Cooperative come here. When you turn in your name tags, please remember to stick the string into in the packet so it's a little bit neater. So if everyone can just clean up a little bit, and we have a number of our candidates here to speak to. We have Roger, we have Paul, we have Mark, we have Rebecca, and plus our ones to be reelected, we have Sally and Janet and me and Peter. So anyway, yes, one more thing.
We have the best chair of this group ever, and Katie Woodhecker, so give her. Before we go, I just wanted to mention one event that I loved when I was in the Senate, which is the North Haverhill Fair. So you need to calendar that. I don't know the date of the fair yet. It's usually around the 1st